The webinar is about to start, guys, and okay, just let you know, this webinar is in collaboration with QFUS, QFUSS, and QFUS is an online platform that brings that help learners to connect with mentors. So you can check out their website. Today, the topic is to skill up for the current business scenarios, and we have Anmay here with us. Anmay, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So, okay, we are going to start the webinar now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, can you start by introducing yourself?
Yep, sure. So I did basically I'm from Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, and I have done my schooling and engineering from Chennai. So I was in a boarding school in Chennai. It's Lalaji Memorial Omega International School, and from 8th standard to 12th standard, I was a student there, and then I continued my engineering from SRM University, Chennai again. And yeah, I did. I did my BTech from Information Technology, and currently I'm working as a consultant at Microsoft.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so mentees, today we are going to now start the whole webinar, and also there's a Q&A part at the end of the webinar. So if you have any doubts, just write your doubts and questions in the Q&A section. Make sure that you only write your doubts in the Q&A section, otherwise they will get lost in the chat. Okay. So yeah. So, and May, can you tell us more about your experience while working in like project management? You have like working in project management, and how does it feel like to work there, and how does it feel like to work in Microsoft?
Yeah. So, uh, sorry, I couldn't introduce that part in my introduction. So I am basically currently a consultant at Microsoft, and before that, for around 1.5 years, I worked as a project manager again at Microsoft. So it was, really a very exciting opportunity, to because I joined Microsoft as a fresher. I just had 3 or 4 months of experience from Cognizant before that. And when I joined Microsoft, it was all a bunch of college students, and we really were getting used to the work culture, the atmosphere there. And then suddenly this opportunity came where they were asking all the freshers who joined to work as a project manager. And um I at once, it was I was very excited, and I was like, let's give it a try. And I did work as a project manager for around 1.5 years. It was a really good time. I learned a lot about about the business, about the whole process of how everything works, especially in the services side of Microsoft, right? And yeah, I mean, currently I'm working as a consultant, and it's a total shift from what I used to do earlier because, uh, in project management, you basically uh, deal with the back end of any kind of a delivery, so you are kind of the enabler. And but when it comes to consulting, you are basically sitting there with customer, and telling them, or suggesting them, or and making their architectures, making sure that the whole design that we have suggested to them is working for them, understanding what their real requirement is, what their story is, and then accordingly giving them the solution possible.
Oh, okay. So what were your roles and responsibilities in the organizations you have worked for? Like,
So, when I joined right after college, I was, a program analyst trainee in Cognizant, right? And I was hired from the campus recruitment drive and things like that. And I joined Cognizant in Hyderabad. So there, I did not get into any kind of a working scenario. It was just the trainings that I attended there. So uh, when you get hired into Cognizant or companies like big services companies like TCS, Infosys, and all that, they will actually give you time to develop yourself according to the what should I say, the business streams are, right. And I was in that process, and then I got a opportunity to give an interview at Microsoft, and luckily I cracked that. So again, whatever I learned at Cognizant in just the span of 3.5 to 4 months, whatever I learned there really came, handy in. Um, First of all, it gave me a base to a technology, and then, based on that technology, I was able to really show that okay, I have some level of information and skills in this particular sector, and then that really helped me in cracking that interview. Yeah. And when it comes to the roles and responsibilities of a project manager, I would say that it's basically, you have to treat that particular project as your baby, right? Whatever happens from top to end, you are the sole responsible and accountable person when it comes to a single project, right?
Right.
So let it be the customer escalations or the financial management, or things like, I mean, it's just the overall management, the number of hours in that project, or because there's a specific budget in which we need to deliver any project. So what happens is that you have a specific scope defined, right? And you have to make sure that whatever we are delivering is within the scope, is within the budget, and in within the stipulated time, right? So
Right.
if it goes above that particular time period or things like that, then issues start happening, right? So you just need to make sure that whatever happens, you take the project to the end line within the budget, within the time frame, with all the stakeholders happy, and make sure that there are no escalations to the customer and things like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of soft skills come into play here, because if there's anything that is not happening as it should, you will be the person who is answerable to that. So that is the kind of accountability that you have in a role as project manager.
Oh,
And when it comes to, I would say, consultancy, or in terms of the technical side, your role is basically to understand the customer, right? um, Many different customers have different scenarios, and you need to understand, I mean, what is happening there, and provide the solutions accordingly.
right. So you just mentioned that various soft skills are required. So what all other skills, apart from soft skills, what are other skills are required for by the industry?
um, I mean, there are a lot, if I would name them like that. So uh, one of the essential things that would be is to learn the office skills, right? When you have, suppose you have Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, and different things like that. Nowadays you also have many different additions to office tools like Sway and things like that. It's I would say it is really good to be uh, proficient in these basic skills, because nowadays people take it for granted and just apply, or write it in the resume. But I'm with my experience, if you just know Excel, I mean, if you know advanced Excel, then it is a really really strong skill to have it in your resume, because majority of the work may take small startups, or medium businesses or enterprises for that matter. Everyone uses Excel, so this we just write it in a resume stating that okay, I know Excel, but the thing is, if you go deep into Excel, it's just never ending. So I would say, apart from the normal soft skills that you have, there are um, specific softwares and specific tools that each and every role demands, and uh, or every student and everybody should look forward to be proficient in those separate tools who really make your life easy in that particular role.
Right, right. So, okay, if we talk about different business scenarios, how would you say we have to skill up for them? So, for example, we talk about programming. So, how should a persons work for towards that?
So, see, programming is again a very vast field if if you're saying that. So, programming could be anything from our scalable huge software development scenarios to even data analysis, machine learning, and they can also be towards web development and things like that. So programming as a whole is very general, and I think people should, I mean specifically students should look into the different um, fields wherein they can utilize a certain aspect. So Visual Studio is a very powerful tool, which I would suggest all the students to learn, because it is a very robust and very um, one of the most important development tools when it comes to programming. And I mean it is very vast in terms of its scope as well. So you can develop anything from an application to a web application to whatever, I mean whatever you UWP apps or whatever is it, so that is there. And then we really have programming language. But the thing is, if you know one or two programming language, because the most important part uh, in any kind of coding languages or programming languages is that uh, it's all up here, so the syntax really doesn't matter. It's just the way you think, just the way you apply things. And for that matter, I mean you can very easily shift from one, I wouldn't say very easily, but it is still easier for you to shift from one language to other. But the thing is, the primary skill that you have for programming is you should be able to find solution to problems, because you will get a lot of tools and a lot of libraries and a lot of backend support. But it's the way you approach a problem and provide a solution to that. So that is really the key point here.
Right. Okay. So, what about program management?
Uh, Program management, when we are saying program management or project management, it, there, I would say it encompasses everything that we can have in terms of management, So, project management is in itself, a separate field, right? So you have project management in each and every industry, and there is a separate theory, there's a separate what should I say, way you approach project or program management. And there are separate um, knowledge base for that, so when we go deep into that, we have a lot of things like starting from our stakeholder management to a very important and a very basic thing that we take for granted is communication management. We have a whole what should I say, a huge topic in project management and program management relating to just communication management, because it is very very essential that you manage how you communicate to your stakeholders, right?
Right.
uh, One wrong email to one important stakeholder and the whole project can be in a risky scenario. So uh, uh, there are very theoretical, deep, and these kind of topics in project management, which on the surface you feel that okay, it's just theory. But the thing is, it's very important to understand those underlying concepts. So stakeholder management, you have schedule management, and then risk management, cost management, budget management. So everything. So there's a whole book. If people are interested, you can just go and type PMBOK, right? PMBOK, it's a project management book of knowledge. So
You
that
write down the name in the chat section, the
yeah,
name of the book.
it is. I'm not sure if it is available for free, but yeah, again, it really has all the concepts that are there for project management or program management for that matter. It
Oh,
will tell you specifically what a project is, what a program is, and all the knowledge areas, uh, all the knowledge areas across the entire life cycle. So when we talk about project management, it's a very systematic way of approaching a particular thing. So you have project initiation, and then planning, and I'm not remembering them exactly as of now. It's been time, but there are five main, under the project management life cycle. So you have project, you start from initiation, you plan, and then you monitor a project, take it to closure, and in between, you do all the workings of the project. So yeah, it's a very vast and a very, and I would suggest this to people to, if they really want, they can try and take this as a path, because project management, I have read in many articles that it's a very much in demand skill in today's scenario, and there are project managers required in each and every field that is there.
right, right. Okay, so what about data sciences?
So data science is basically what should I say, integrated into each and every field nowadays. I mean, even if a small Instagram page is there, you will have analytics in the background for that. Google Analytics is famous, and uh, you have many analysis tools and available nowadays, and it has become really a kind of requirement nowadays to for even small companies or big companies or enterprises for that matter to have data analysis in their wing, because data, as you know, is, everybody says this, that it's the is the new oil in this
Yeah,
century, right? So mm data, we have so much data available, with like even the personal data nowadays amounts to GBs of data, maybe a lot more than that. So it's just that it's a entirely new field in itself, because when we talk about data, it again the field spans from the whole backend infrastructure scenario, where the computer engineers and IT engineers or software engineers again have a whole new field, where we have data mining, data warehousing, and we have very sophisticated cloud-based solutions and software nowadays, right? For you have Azure Databricks, you have similar software from Google as well, and then so when it and then you have really the business side of it. If we have some business students around, we have business analysis, decision making using data, so therein we have visualizations, dashboards, and a simple chart in one any of your presentation, really takes your level of I mean the presentation to another level. So data science in itself is a very big field, and a lot can be achieved just by that. And if you're really interested, you should go now and just type on YouTube about data science. And if you have Excel or maybe Google Sheets as well, if you don't have a original Excel or something, you can just use Google Sheets online, and you can start your data analysis journey, and you will really understand that how vast and how deep this field is. Basically, right now, every major or minor decision is taken based on good data backup. So yeah.
yeah. Okay. So what about artificial intelligence?
So it's, when I was in college, the buzzword at that time was big data. Yeah. And then slowly that changed to, I wouldn't say slowly. I mean, this has been around from 1950s. But the thing is, now it is kind of a very, uh, happening field in that. But even that is coming to what should I say? A very structured way of doing things. So we have different fields like data analysis, right? So in that we have data already with us, and then we try to represent that data, visualize that data, and make some decisions based on that data, right? In artificial intelligence, we basically provide human level intelligence to either our softwares or our applications or things like that. So anything from automatically sending mail, or it's a kind of automation there, not artificial intelligence. But it initially started with that, with automation, and then slowly it moved on. And when we have a set of data and we try to figure out new things out of it, and kind of create um, a intelligence only a man could have been able to derive out of it, then that basically becomes artificial intelligence. And to achieve that, we have another subset of that field, and in which we call machine learning. So where we use our um, different algorithms, like you have um, we have different kind of learning mechanism there. So we have supervised learning, we have unsupervised learning. So in supervised learning, you basically supervise or kind of have a look or idea about what is happening step by step when we are creating a machine learning model. In unsupervised learning, we just provide certain parameters, and we basically kind of hope, not hope, we know exactly what we need, but we try to drive the solution towards that particular thing, right? And then now we also have things like deep learning, and wherein we create artificial neural networks and kind of create um, different level of separation between each and every iteration. So that kind of creates a like we have our biological neurons, right? Similarly, we have the structure in machine learning as well, where we create different artificial neurons, and then try to uh, give certain input to I mean the algorithm, and then it runs those inputs that we have provided in various scenarios and and then gives us an output. So when it comes to latest things like face detection, or object recognition, or it could be image recognition as well, or natural language processing, or understanding the psychology, or a particular state of mind by what a person has written down. So sentiment analysis, right? So all these kind of things fall into the so how we've talked about is, this is suppose data science. Then we have an overlapping circle here, which is our artificial intelligence, under which we have machine learning. And then if we keep having more silos in that, we have deep learning and computer vision. Uh, it is uh, so ingrained in our lives right now, and we just sometimes we notice, sometimes we don't. But even whatever you're watching on maybe Netflix or Prime Video, those are also kind of machine learning scenarios, wherein um, uh, the the backend algorithm or the computer has learned the the recommendation systems, right? So they have learned basically what you are interested in, what kind of movie you have rated, what number, and based on that, they try to map out different scenarios and suggest either movies or songs to you, right? So it is just very heavily ingrained, and it's going, and a lot of scope is there in the back end. But then when students or anybody who's trying to change their fields and trying to approach this, they should look into the specific areas as to uh, where they might want to make their careers in. So you can very well just make your career out of data analysis, right? But if you are very much interested in creating intelligent models, or intelligent scenarios, then you should try machine learning. And if in machine learning you have so many different things like recommendation systems, neural networks, and things like that. So it I mean I would really suggest everybody to go back and read about the overall idea, what is what people are trying to do, and then appropriately choose their next field. Yeah.
Okay. So, and then what would you say that the mentees should do as projects to build their resume?
Uh, I wouldn't suggest people to be very choosy, right? Because whatever experience out of a live project you can get, it's not going to go in waste. You know, uh, be it a kind of a sales experience, or let it be a volunteer experience, or any kind of project that they're interested in. Because first thing I would suggest everybody to do is go and follow all the big companies and all the different companies or startups who are trying to do something, and who are just there on social media. So just go and follow those companies. Try to, over a period of time, you will see their posts. You will try to you will know what is their area of expertise, right? And then based on that, people can look out for projects with just catch hold of people on LinkedIn, and or just mm, mail them coldly and just be like, hey, I just checked your profile. You are doing projects on a certain thing, and what would you suggest? I shall do in this particular field if I'm interested, and things like that. So any kind of a project experience, I wouldn't say to uh, go and pick from. Just whatever you're getting, do it. You will learn something or the other, and any learning comes handy, when you're going forward. Yeah.
Okay. So, what questions what should a mentee expect during an interview? What are the most commonly asked questions in an interview?
Hmm, interviews. Yes. So, what I would suggest during interviews is just know what are the normal questions, because there are certain standard questions, especially when it comes to entry level jobs, like why do you want to join this company, or lame questions like what are your 5-year plans and things like that. But what I would suggest everyone is to not have a standard answer to each and everything, right? You will find online hundreds of answers that for this particular question, if you answer this, maybe you have a good impression. But the thing is, out of because what we need to understand is, when recruiters are hiring, they are interviewing hundreds of people for that one particular role, right? And if you give a standard answer which everybody else is giving, you just don't shine. You just don't. I mean, if everybody is giving the same answer, it's just of no use. So when in during the interview, I would suggest know about the company that you're interviewing for, right? Know about what the company's business is, right? Have your own questions for the interviewer. Be like, okay, this is the scope of your company, but I am this is my future plan. So where does this company fit into this scenario? What is the future future plan of this company and things like that. So once you ask questions, once you really are involved in the interview, and so slowly what will start happening is interviews will stop. I mean, you'll stop being scared of them. Yeah. So the most important thing in an interview is to be yourself, like you are with your friends. Obviously not exactly like that, but then again, you need to be yourself in terms of whatever you're doing. So I have had I remember for my cognizant interview, instead of the IT stuff in the or the technical stuff in the final round, I was just discussing with the recruiter about how to make a lasagna, and then he was sharing how he makes his pizza, and similarly, so just go off the topic, and just have a chat with them casually. Obviously know about the niche area of that company. I'm not saying that you don't prepare yourself in the technologies that they're hiring for or things like that, but once you have that knowledge, um, expand on that. Talk to them as you really know about it. Go when go with your homework. I mean, um, go well prepared so that you're not nervous, and then don't lose faith, because in many times in interviews, what happens is that you're not able to answer a particular question, or you're not able to solve some puzzles which they have posed to you. But the solution to a problem exactly on a I mean at that point of interview is not something everybody looks for, right? They look for the approach that you are taking, right? So just keep at it. Try to solve the problem. Okay. It happened to me in my Microsoft interview. They asked me two puzzles, right, out of which I was able to answer one, and I was very close in the other. And they asked me a straightforward question: why should we hire you? We have 20 people who have solved both the puzzles. So you really need to come up with. Really need to convince the other person that if you're not getting the solution, you will try all the ways possible to get a solution. Maybe you're not able to find it in the 5 minutes that you were given, but maybe you are checking in the right areas, probably doing I mean taking that particular approach kind of shares light into certain other aspects that everybody else was not even looking into, which might change the entire scope of that particular problem. So there are things like that, and you during the interview also, I would say you should have your have your composure, have be confident in yourself, be confident in what you have learned, be confident in what you know, because once you have done your homework, once you have your questions straight, I don't think anything else will be required from your end. And then once you are fully prepared, be confident, and just ace that interview. I mean, yeah, that's it.
Okay. So can you walk us through the different job opportunities that are available in the industry, and what exactly do you need to do in in those roles?
So trust me when I say this, there are a lot of opportunities available out there. It's just that there is a huge gap between what we are taught, between what is expected from a company, or sorry, what is expected out of a employee or a applicant, and the experience gap that we have, right? So what really happens is the company is they're always looking for a person with 1+ years of experience, right? So for the first year, right, show your projects, show your the suppose first of all, don't say no to opportunities, right? Because a gap really shows that what were you essentially doing, because you can do hundreds of certifications, but the level of knowledge you get out of a live scenario or a live project or or an opportunity from a company is totally different, right? So involve with, I mean, do internships, take for the first year. I mean, don't worry about the pay, or don't worry about the conditions and things like that. Only for the first year, right? Uh, get that 1 year of experience, so that you are eligible to apply in other, entry level jobs, right? And then once you have that thing, just go and check out the career section of each and every company. You really, I mean, nobody really needs to ask this thing out of anyone, that what are the opportunities available. Because uh, right now, if you go and check the Microsoft website, right, or the career section, you will find at least 500 openings there. Okay. uh, Agreed, 450 of them will require experience, will need, but the thing is, you will get the idea that, okay, if this is the role, these are the kind of things that they're expecting. So start building on those things, right? If today you want to go and become a data scientist, right? So the number of things they will ask out of I mean, out of a candidate is just laughable. I mean, laughable in the sense, they will ask for a PhD, and, 3 years of experience in SQL, 3 years of experience in programming, and you know at least, and more also, and then you have a lot of um, you need to have a lot of research and publication and things like that. So uh, you know you need to understand the mentality that with these kind of things, they're also trying to weed out the applicants who are really not skilled. So you just go and check about each and every position. Just go and check, okay, if there's a company like Microsoft, or there's a company like Google, or there's a company like Amazon, what are the different field they have internally, right? And in that, where I really see myself in the coming years, and what are the skills that are really needed, to get myself into that position. So I mean, this is just such a vast question that I can just help you with this thing, that okay, go check the career site. I mean, read through the job description, because everybody will give a job description, right? Read the job description. You will know that, okay, this is what the role entails. This is what I will be doing. This is what it might pay. You have many website, you have Glassdoor, things like that, where you can check the pay scale in different levels and for different people. And in general, you have a job role, right? And that job role has a kind of lower and upper limit. So if you're starting out in that particular job role, if you have I mean, required skills, then this is the amount that you should be getting, right? So if there are companies who are giving you way less, for that particular skill, just wait out 1 year, 1.5 years, and then switch, because then that particular experience will come handy in getting that other role, that you're looking for. So I would suggest, go and, just read each and every page of the career site, and you will know what all different opportunities are available. Things like evangelism, wherein you can just speak out for a company, student partners, and there are so many different roles that we might not even think that this is available in today's scenarios. So because we are just taught about the hard and very solid scenarios, that okay, this is engineering, this is designing, this is that, but there are a lot of roles in between. So there are operations, and if you have done IT, or if you have done management, both of these roles can come into operation, right? Operations. So please go through these different job roles, and find out what you can really do, in the coming years.
So you mentioned earlier that there are some tools and softwares that we should know as of in this industry. In today's scenario, there are some tools that we should know about. So what are they?
So again, tools depend on the role that you're currently into. So if suppose you want to be a software developer, right? So you should be obviously you should be familiar with the programming languages, but then there are different tools for that as well. You have you have Java IDEs, you have Visual Studio, right? You have online nowadays all the machine learning uh, models are being prepared in Google Colab. You know, they provide you free GPUs and things like that through their cloud. And then you have Jupyter notebooks, you have Azure notebooks. So these are the different things where online platforms which you can utilize and start your learning journey to start uh, codes and all that. And then when it really comes to management, you have standard management tools like Jira, and uh, it's not just a management tool, basically kind of a I mean, issue resolution tool, right? So you have those kind of tools as well. Then if you want to do digital marketing, then you have many things from Google as well. You have Google Analytics and a lot of things. So it really depends on the kind of role that you're taking. So I mean, when it comes to data analysis, you can take Excel as a very powerful tool. That tool single-handedly will let you create your dashboards. And Excel in itself is now a programming language. I mean, companies just use Excel and make softwares out of that. People use Excel to make really sophisticated paintings out of it. So yeah, I mean, there people are using Excel to do anything possible. So use that tool, use it to visualize, use it to analyze your data, maybe create a CRM out of it, a ERP out of it. You can do anything. It's a programming language in itself. So you can do a lot of things with that as well.
Okay.
And uh, and then it comes to the design field. So uh, you have graphic designers as well, right? So for them, we have really good and elaborate tools from Adobe. You have Illustrator, you have Adobe Photoshop, and InDesign and things like that. So there are various tools for each and every role. So once you decide what role are you going to go into, then you decide your next step or your next tool.
That's actually quite interesting, because the thing you mentioned about Excel, I was like, really, is that possible? I mean, that was really amazing. So, can you tell us about more apps, websites that the mentees can use for learning? For learning more about the field. Are there
Hmm.
any portals available?
There are a lot actually. Right now, with with the particular outbreak and the COVID situation as well, you have just unlimited sources for your readiness in readiness in terms of any technology tool or field of study. So uh, I would just name some basics here. That is edx.org. So you can have free audit tools, sorry, courses there. You have one of uh, Coursera. I mean, people should be aware of Coursera as well here, right? Coursera is a really good learning platform where you can learn from really the industry leaders in literally anything. So for artificial intelligence and machine learning, basically the course by Andrew Ng is considered as a basic, right? Even if the people who are not trying to go into the field but want to know about artificial intelligence or machine learning, they need to do that course, right? But don't take these courses as a way to getting into a job, because everybody can do them for free. So it really doesn't give you any edge, but these courses really give you the base, right? They really give you the basics of any one particular field. And then you have n number of channels in YouTube. I mean, if you just for once, if you try to do courses, you have tool specific courses. You have the entire playlists of courses, for data analysis, for Power BI, for any kind of thing. You have loads and loads of videos, on YouTube itself, right? And then one of the good sites that I have gone to for learning is the MIT Open Courseware, right? So you have courses from MIT, and those are complete audited courses which they used to teach their students. So some years back, the MIT professors, made those courses, and now it is available for free. So you can literally go and learn. If you can't get into MIT, at least you can learn from their teachers, right? So I would recommend to go and try MIT Open Courseware. I mean, you will have such a huge variety of courses available there. You have courses on poker as well. You have courses on um, things which really are skills but are not considered here in India as of now, are also available there. So just go, just explore that. Try to find whatever courses you are interested in and just do them. I mean,
Okay.
there's a lot of material available. Yeah.
Right.
Also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, in the COVID scenario, what is happening is Microsoft has also made available um, a huge number of courses uh, for the roles in the current situation, right? So if you guys can go to opportunity.linkedin.com, right? There. You will find all the current roles which are which is the requirement as of now. So you have graphic designing, you have project management, you have product management, you have programming, you have sales, you have data analysis. So all these courses are available in a very structured manner for free. So please do go and check out these free courses from Microsoft and from Google as well. Google also, I think, recently made it available for like 1 million students or 1 million people. So I hope you are in that 1 million who can go and get these courses for free. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So before we head on to the next question, mentees, I'm posting a feedback form in the chat section. Just make sure you fill that out so that we can know what other workshops do you expect in the future. Also, we will open the Q and just write down your doubts and questions in the Q&A section, because we will be heading to that very soon. Okay. So, okay. And what internships or jobs should the mentees apply for, and how should they do that? Like, if they want to apply for internships, how should they proceed for that?
Internships, again, you need to go and look for what you're planning to do after that. So suppose in internship, what is really happening is uh, it could either be startups or it could be um, huge organizations or enterprises who are giving out these internships, right? So um, there are many scenarios which you will see for these internships. So when it comes to internship at Microsoft, you will really be working on the niche technologies, in the industry. But when you're seeing some internship opportunities for, suppose a startup, maybe they just want a extra hand with their work, for free. But the thing is, in both of these scenarios, you learn a lot, right? So look for these internship opportunities and look for what kind of uh, solution or what kind of a company that is. Okay. So and what you will really be learning, or what skills you will really be expanding on, right? So if it's a startup, maybe you learn multiple things out of that particular scenario, because once you join, it's not that they are working on one solution, they are literally working on setting up their entire business, right?
Right.
So this that is like going into an environment where everybody's kind of dealing with everything, so if there is the HR guy, he's also dealing with, I mean, apart from their normal job of recruiting and mailing and all that, they might also be dealing with business development, so and if it is like and if you are getting an internship opportunity, maybe for any kind of a tech role, maybe you're also there doing some kind of a search engine optimization work there, right? And which you would directly not get a view on in big companies, but that is really required for startups and small companies. So any kind of internship opportunity where you think that you can use your current skills is a good is a way to go forward. Um, I mean, I can understand it can be really hard because obviously even I couldn't find many internship opportunities. But um, for internships as well, people are looking for really talented people, because if they want to, if they are spending some time on you, they want that time to be utilized, to the fullest. So um, they just first, go through different fields, get some basic skills, right? Decide that, okay, I could be doing this. Of course, it is going to change, and then you might not stick to what you have decided right now. But the thing is, once you learn something, because of that particular knowledge, you get some role, right? And then you add on to those skills, and then you get another role, with which uses these earlier skills as well. So this is how you go forward. Just decide on couple of things, and it is good to know about multiple things, and with time you will see that how everything comes together. So I would say just go out there, whatever opportunity you're getting, just grab onto them, and develop your skills on
Right. Okay. That's great. Okay, so now we are moving to the Q and A's. Kushi is asking you to write down the names of I think the courses you mentioned.
it. Okay, so one is this opportunity.linkedin.com. uh, I'm sending that link. What kind of computer skills are required for working in any company? um, what should I take from computer skills? Because computer skills basically is like everything, right? So um, what I would suggest people to go and read about is what are the various fields that are available, in the IT industry nowadays. So it's just not programming, it's just not machine learning and AI, it's just not coding and things. There are a lot of things that we are not even aware of, right? I'm sorry, just one second. Yeah, so when it comes to computer skills, uh, you can have things from the infrastructure side. Yeah, so think of it this way. Take the entire scenario, right? You you have big companies, okay? Those big companies need their own infrastructure to to provide computers and basically have identity level access to companies and that. So they need to have an entire infrastructure, right? So for nowadays, earlier we used to have physical servers, right, providing that infrastructure, but now we have cloud computing. So basically, everything is performed uh, through cloud computing, and nobody is having physical servers nowadays, right? So, what are the companies that are really at the top of their game in this? So we have Microsoft, we have AWS. Now, AWS is basically Amazon Web Services, right? So we might, all of us will be aware of Amazon as our e-commerce thing, but that is not their main business. Their main business is Amazon Web Services. They are the ones who literally made this field, of cloud computing. And Netflix, Prime, all of these companies who are providing you free services, in the sense that you don't have to download stuff nowadays, right? You will just click on a button, it'll play. Okay, so all the infrastructure for that, all the content storage, everything is done through cloud computing, right? So that is one broader category. Now then you for these from these cloud platforms you also sorry from these cloud providers you will have various platforms, right? So now these platforms will be used by another set of companies who will be making end user solutions, right? So suppose now users I mean companies are using Microsoft Cloud to basically create n number of enterprise scenarios. Now you have um, cyber security, so they are making their cyber security spaces online. They are making their machine learning pipelines on the cloud, right? So because having a physical functionality for all these things is not possible for everyone now. So you have cloud computing who's providing the entire infrastructure, and then you have things in between who are providing you the platform, right? Now those platform are then used by developers, or could be web developers, or other people who are making your applications or who are making your websites and all that. So you have that is another front of computer skills. So when you're literally talking about computer skills, I would suggest don't talk in those terms now. Do your homework. That okay, these are the different. You have IT admins. So you have big companies who literally have thousands and thousands of computers in their active directories, and then they need to manage the entire information structure, the identity based access management systems, and a lot of those things. How do you think you get a uh, why is there a separate company laptop and why is there a personal computer, right? So what is there in that company laptop? So those kind of uh, user and management is basically what is done by IT admins. So you have that is a whole different field, in itself. So I would suggest go and read about all of these different fields. How is everything connecting to each and every one? And this will really open your way of looking into things, right? So yeah, I would suggest go and read more about this thing, because there is a lot in the IT industry.
Okay. So next question is also asked by Anjali, and she is like, what additional skills do you need to enhance your resume?
Uh, First of all, guys, the time is over for a black and white resume. Okay, make an interactive resume. Make a resume which stands out. People, once anybody who sees your resume should see and should be able to have a notion that okay, this person has really worked on this resume. This person is really interested in how they want to approach seeking out jobs, right? So um, have I mean use the online templates that are available. Okay, if not, just go use LinkedIn, type in each and every field, right? Because that will give you an idea of where the gaps are, right? So you also have skills section in LinkedIn, right? So just go and check out what are the different skills that are available, right? And out of that, try to match that. Okay, these are the skills that I should be probably having, and work towards that. Then try to get some volunteer experience, right? Volunteer for different things, have hobbies, and mention about them. And really the resume should be extension, not an extension. It kind of should be a representation of you, right? So you and try and make it as crisp as possible. No 2 pages, 3 pages, no stories, just one single page. Because remember, at the end of the day, the recruiters are reviewing hundreds and thousands of resumes, right? That too on a daily basis. So how does your resume stand? What are those keywords that is really required for you for a particular job? Okay, have multiple resumes, right? When you're going and applying for a job role, just one resume does not suffice. For one role you need to have a different set of skills, right? And for another, there are different set of skills. So review your resume in with respect to each and every different job position, right? Try to think whether this particular portion is necessary or not. Am I repeating some of the information that I have entered? Am I not crisp or clear or things like that? Just have your resume, get it reviewed. Uh, Initially, you will find it tough to add things into the resume, but if you don't have any experience, try to mention as many online courses and certifications that you have done. It will show at least that you are learning. So seeing your resume, the person should have an idea about you. That if you don't have experience, okay, you are still interested. You have 5 or 6 online certifications. Although certifications might not be kind of a criteria to get into any position, but it certainly says that this guy or girl is interested in learning.
Yeah,
It
right.
really says, and it should be of various things, just not the skills that are there. Do some courses about empathy. Do some courses about different soft skills that are required. Do courses on communication. Do courses on how to write an email. Let it be small courses, but mention them. I mean, mention them in your resume. Yeah.
Okay, that's actually quite great. Guys, if any other of you have questions, just post them right now because we are just about to close the Q&A section. Okay, so Anmay, it was really great, to have you here and answer all these questions and doubts because it's really crucial to have industry knowledge, what's actually happening in the industry. And I think I say it for all the mentees that we are very thankful that you took out your time and did this webinar. So thanks for that.
No
So
worries, no
right,
worries.
so
Always happy to
this
help.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, even Anjali saying thank you. Okay, so I think there are no more questions. Yeah, everyone is saying thank you in the chat section. So there are no more questions right now. So we are gonna end the session. And mentees, there's a feedback form in the chat section, so do fill that before leaving. Okay, so Anmit, it was nice connecting to you. Also, can you leave your LinkedIn link in the chat box? So if the mentees want to connect, they can connect with you.
Yeah, 1 second. It's just, just type my name, Anamay Tamrakar. 1 second. So it's linkedin.com/Anamay Tamrakar. So you'll be able to, the same is for Twitter and everything as well. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So it will be lovely. It will be lovely to connect to you. And okay. So I'm gonna end the session now. And
Sure,
have
sure.
a nice day.
Yeah, same to you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, guys.